You're tuned to VideoCaroline, the best TV over the 7 seas.
Good evening and welcome to the Politicos show, sponsored tonight by Nota, the anti-austerity campaign which has spread nationwide from Bradford. Nota is not putting up any candidates in the local elections, but where all candidates support or do not actively fight the government's austerity cuts, it suggests voters should spoil their ballot papers by writing "none of the above" across the bottom. But Nota is also proactively supporting candidates who pledge to fight the cuts. These include candidates from the Anti-Austerity Alliance, Communist Party of Britain, Left Unity, National Health Action Party, Respect, the Socialist Party and the Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition. Meanwhile, UKIP, the Farage one-man band, continues to dominate the political headlines. You'll no doubt be pleased to hear that the social policy think tank Civitas says membership of the EU has not given the UK any insider advantages in trade with other European countries. The study also questions claims that collectively negotiated EU free trade agreements benefited the UK. Meanwhile, Mr Farage says he will counter criticism that his party is racist by highlighting the party's black and ethnic minority candidates in the local elections. A new opinion poll gives UKIP a 3-point lead in the race to get the most votes in this month's European elections, with 29% of the voters. Labour was second on 26%, the Conservatives on 23%, and the Liberal Democrats on 10%. The major parties are allowing UKIP's anti-immigration agenda to go unchallenged. Indeed, Mr Farage is not saying anything that was not said by Gordon Brown's urging of British jobs for British workers several years ago. And no one seems to be challenging his right to call his party the UK Independence Party when it lets the economic domination of UK by foreign capital go unchallenged. Here's a YouTube examination of this issue. Nigel Farage asks, who really runs this country? Why doesn't Mr Farage want UK economic independence? Who owns this country? More than half UK shares are foreign owned. 12.4% of UK GDP is siphoned off by foreign companies. 4 of our big 6 energy companies are foreign owned. Most of our nuclear energy companies are foreign owned. Foreign owned water companies pay 30% dividends while starving infrastructure of money. 106 of 150 UK grocery brands are foreign owned. Who owns this country? The mighty dollar. And American bases have extraterritorial rights. Weetabix, Alpen and Ready-Brek are owned by Bright Foods, China. Branston Pickle, Sarson's Vinegar and Haywood's Pickled Onions are owned by Mizcan, Japan. Cadbury is owned by Kraft, USA. Newcastle Brown Ale, John Smith's and Strongbow are owned by Heineken, Holland. Thames Water is owned by an Australian, Abu Dhabi and China consortium. Pfizer US plans to take over AstraZeneca, UK's second largest drugs company. What does Nigel Farage say about this? Nothing. For real UK independence, don't vote for UKIP. In fact, vote for anyone but UKIP. Today's Guardian has revealed that job seekers could lose their benefits for 3 months if they do not accept postings to jobs with 0 hours contracts. Now, according to Wikipedia, workers subject to 0 hour contracts are subject to exploitation, as they may be denied work at any time for any reason, including declining to respond to a demand to work. A refusal to work in any one instance for any reason can result in a prolonged period of lack of work. Due to the uncertainty of the workers' schedules, 0 hour contracts present problems for workers with children due to the difficulty of arranging childcare. David Miliband has pledged tougher legislation on 0 hours contracts, but so far he has not responded to the call by Labour MPs for the contracts to be banned. Last week, the Office for National Statistics revealed the number of contracts that do not guarantee minimum hours of work or pay, but require workers to be on standby, had reached 1.4 million. Say again, 1,400,000. 1 in 10 employers are using such contracts, which are most likely to be offered to women, young people and people over 65. The figure rises to almost half of all employers in the tourism, catering and food sector. A letter from Esther McVey, an employment minister, to Labour MP Sheila Gilmore has confirmed that under the new system, job centre coaches would be able to mandate to 0 hours contracts, although they would have discretion about considering whether a role was suitable. Higher level sanctions, imposed if a job seeker refuses to take a position without good reason, that's the decision of the coach of course, or leaves the position voluntarily, will lead to a loss of benefits for 13 weeks on the first occasion, 26 weeks on the second occasion, and 156 weeks on the third occasion. That's 3 years. Are you fed up with the stuff that's peddled by the big newspaper proprietors, with the way they've laid the basis for UKIP's anti-immigrant agenda by a continual stream of misleading scare stories? Well, we have alternatives, you know. For a start, there's Britain's only daily socialist paper, The Morning Star. I've written for them since the days when it was the Daily Worker. I don't always agree with its policies. For instance, when if we have a referendum on EU membership, I'll be voting to stay in, and I'll campaign for turning what is currently a boss's cartel into a socialist federation. I think it can be done. But the paper is always worth reading. It carries the best jazz criticism in its 16 or so daily pages, though John Fordham in The Guardian runs the Star's Chris Searle a close second. Though I'm as far from being a trot as can be, my comrades in the Socialist Workers' Party probably call me a Stalinist behind my back. I think they may be right. I read the SWP Socialist Worker every week. Again, I don't always agree with it. Last week, for instance, it called upon hundreds of thousands of people to take the fight to the Tories. Well, I have no problem with that as far as it goes. Why go for the monkeys, and the organ grinders in the city are the real enemies? This week's issue includes a fascinating analysis of the situation in South Africa and places the blame for the rise of UKIP on Labour's refusal to engage with it. As we shall see in a moment, Labour's election leaflets do absolutely refuse to attack UKIP on its home ground. Now, here's something of a curiosity. Finsbury Communist, a 2-page duplicated publication of the Finsbury Communist Association, describing itself as an anti-revisionist journal. Usually I scan its ranting with a wry smile, but I found one piece in issue number 592, my goodness, it has been going a long time, more interesting than usual. On its front page, it refers to a familiar political phenomenon. Business as usual at Islington Town Hall, it says. When councillors are elected to run a council, they are met by happy, smiling, permanent officials who have been there all the time and will be there all the time. Inside, it tells a delicious anecdote about Alderman Harold Riley, who was Labour leader of Finsbury Borough Council. Harold Riley was leader of Finsbury Borough Council, it writes, at a time when local councils had more power than they do today. Riley was quite the man in charge. He had a unique way of dealing with official obstruction. He went to live in Finsbury Town Hall, where he could keep an eye on what was going on all the time. Riley's common law wife naturally moved in with him. The officials did not like having Riley and his wife on the premises. Neither did Kay Beauchamp, leader of Finsbury's 200 communists. She was indignant about Riley living with his mistress in the town hall. She told Michael Cliff, communist leader of Finsbury Trades Council, who had a great deal of local trade union influence, to join the Labour Party and get rid of Riley. This Cliff did, although some councillors remained Rileyites for some time afterwards. Council officials breathed a sigh of relief. It's interesting, isn't it, to see a well-known CP communist personality colluding with a communist trade union leader to remove a thorn in the side of Finsbury Council bureaucrats. Things don't change, do they? Now, I've been waiting to see how Labour is going to respond to the UKIP threat. Judging by the Labour leaflet that's just come through my door, the answer is not at all. On the front it says only Labour will tackle the cost of living crisis. Yes, by voting through the Tory austerity cuts as it's done in Bradford and Labour-controlled councils up and down the country. In Brighton, for instance, the Greens planned an austerity-busting budget, but an unholy alliance of Labour and Tories ditched their plans. On the back cover, it puts forward a number of excellent promises on the cost of living. Labour will act to deal with David Cameron's cost of living crisis. We will freeze gas and electricity bills until 2017, expand free childcare for 3 and 4-year-olds, get 200,000 homes built by a year by 2020, and get the next generation to work with a compulsory jobs guarantee for young people unemployed for a year or more. There are a couple of references inside to the benefits of EU membership. It says the EU currently guarantees your hard-won rights at work, including your right to paid holidays, maternity and paternity leave, regular breaks and protections for agency work. Labour wants to see reforms to Europe, but will never negotiate away your rights at work. Labour MEPs know the system isn't perfect. We're committed to securing reforms to make it work even better. It also says you can't trust the Tories with the NHS. Very true. But when they replaced the Tories in 1997, they expanded the Private Finance Initiative, which was John Major's scheme to privatise the NHS by the back door. There's nothing here about ending PFI schemes. And no attack on UKIP. Perhaps Labour thinks it shouldn't give these proto-fascists the oxygen of publicity. Well, this coming Saturday has been declared a national day of anti-UKIP action, and I'll be out on the streets pointing out the dangers of voting for a man who may seem like a likeable buffoon. But then so was Hitler, as I recall. They laughed at him all the way to the concentration camp. Anyway, I hope Labour members and members of all parties, including the Tories for instance, will be out on the streets with us on Saturday. Now that's all from me on this Politicos show, or almost all. I've invited all the main political parties, yes, including the Tories, to join me in co-presenting an eve of poll virtual hustings on VideoCaroline on May 21st. So far, none has responded. It'll be a pity if it doesn't happen, but if not, the Politicos show will be back on a browser near you on May 27th with a full report on the election results. Oh, and if you've been admiring my Cuban Red Star beret, I'm going to award it to the first person who signs up as a Politicos co-presenter. There's more to it than it seems, because it's reversible. Yeah, Che Guevara on the front. To get it, go and sign up as a co-presenter at http://bit.ly/HO helpers-wanted. Looking forward to hearing from you. Till then, stay cool, keep your eyes on the prize, and hold on. There's not a chance we'll vote for you. You can argue till your face turns blue. We'll write none of the above in defense of those we love. There's not a chance we'll vote for you. No, no, there's not a chance we'll vote for you. So there.